Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video discussing the Kansas State Wildcats and the ever-changing transfer portal. Now, I know that we haven't been the most active team in the transfer portal this season. We haven't. We did in this past week get a massive name in the transfer portal, and I don't need to go to extreme detail, but Tyler Perry, a guard from North Texas, has been a huge addition to the Wildcats for the 2023-2024 season and is a perfect plug-and-play type player that will fill that void left by Marquise Noel. I've been out of town this past week, so that's why it's been a bit since I've uploaded, but outside of Tyler Perry, we haven't had a ton of news. I mean, today you might have seen that Ish Massoud just committed to Georgetown, so that's great for him. Congrats, Ish. We're happy for you. And I have some thoughts about everything else with K-State. Why K-State's been going so slow, if that's what you want to say, in the transfer portal. Why we've been so apprehensive to bring certain guys in. And I know there's no sweet talking saying, well, we just missed out on a couple of guys. We did, to an extent, miss out on a couple of guys. Max Abmas chose Texas over us. That one hurt. We lost out on a couple of different players that we thought had a chance to go to Manhattan. They didn't. Aaron Estrada, another one that went to Alabama instead of K-State. It happens. However, K-State currently still has 3 roster spots available. The window to enter the transfer portal ends on May 11th. Today's May 5th. We've got 6 more days to see all the names that enter the portal. And I know that multiple players, when they get their feedback, when they get their names back from the draft, see what their stock is for the NBA, if they're unhappy, they're jumping in the transfer portal. A lot of these guys will transfer. And I know that that's going to be a big second coming where a lot of these teams have already filled up their last couple spots. I mean, KU, granted, they just got Hunter Dickinson, who's a massive player. However, they've only got 1 spot left. K-State has 3 opportunities to land big name players to help it add to the squad. In theory, I still do think one of those 3 spots is reserved for Keontae Johnson. So I really think we treat it more like 2 scholarships at this point. And this is a theory I've been working on. I haven't known what's going to happen with Ish Massoud. None of us really did. But I think maybe it's a possibility that Jerome Tang, in the back of his mind, was keeping a spot. Not 100%. You know, if the last week comes to the transfer portal, Ish is still out there. Maybe they revisit that conversation. There's a quote of Jerome Tang saying, maybe we'll welcome you back to K-State in the event you can't find the right home. Ish now is committed to Georgetown. And I'm not going to sit here and say Coach Tang was holding out hope or saying, you know, we need to leave a spot for Ish in case he wants back. Obviously, they're going to do what's best for the program. Part of my mind thinks that maybe there's an opportunity, that was an idea, or there's a spot there for that. You know, in the event that Keontae returns to K-State, obviously we don't know what's going to happen with the NBA draft yet. That's a guy you got on your roster immediately, who's a National Player of the Year candidate stepping onto the court right again. He's been one of the best players in K-State history in 1 season alone, and if you can double up on that with another one, the sky's the limit for this team. However, we do still have 2-3 spots to fill. I've been pretty vocally confident about Taj Manning, about Caleb Rich, and the power forward position. If Keontae Johnson comes back and joins that squad, I have no issue with our power forward spot. That's not really our biggest hole in my mind. I think we're going to need more bigs. I do. So we've got a couple of young guys stepping up still. We've still got David Gasson on the roster. Naquan Tomlin is kind of the headliner for this bunch in the event that, you know, either Tyler Perry doesn't jump back onto campus and immediately be the guy, or in the event that Keontae Johnson doesn't come back, Naquan Tomlin's the next stop. And I really still believe he is. Cam Carter's a great player. Not a big, but, you know, still a great player and a great addition for K-State. There's a lot of good players on this roster that I think will continue to develop, and you should see that in this next season. You should. There's guys like Cam Carter who I think are going to be just on the cusp of all-conference players. I think Cam Carter has that possibility. Obviously, I've been vocal about Naquan Tomlin saying Big 12 Player of the Year candidate. That's a real possibility. I do see that. However, K-State still has needs, man. We've got to fill guys. We've got to land dudes. And I know there's the stacking dudes and all the different memes about like, yo, we've got dudes. We do have dudes. And don't get me wrong, we've got dudes. We need more dudes. The more people we can add to the squad, the better. Not just saying big name players, like it has to be a cultural fit, which is something that I've thought about a lot more with Jerome Tang and Jerome Dowling and the different coaches on this roster. Like, it's clear and obvious to me that the culture is at the forefront of K-State. Like, that's the biggest thing. If you don't fit the K-State culture, you're not going to fit on the court. That's what I'm seeing. In the transfer portal, we don't know who all is going to enter yet. I almost feel like Jerome Tang and the rest of the coaching staff have some idea that a big splash player is going to enter the portal very soon. I don't know who it's going to be. I don't really have any speculation, but rather than jumping at a guy like LJ Cryer, and I know he's a great player, rather than jumping at a guy like Tremont Mark from Houston, K-State was patient. You know, we didn't say, yo, we're in contact with any of these guys. We waited to see what's going to happen next. And that's where we're at right now. What is going to happen next for this K-State spot? The point guard position was the biggest one to address. You bring in Tyler Perry, a great player, an all-conference player at every school he's been to practically. The guy's been a winner at every level. He comes in immediately a massive contributor for Jerome Tang. The next glaring spot I see is a glue guy like Desi Sills. And if you want to say that the main guys on this team were Keontae Johnson, Marquise Noel, I get that. That's not no disagreement here. Desi Sills was really the guy that held everything together. I mean, he had like 6 blocks in the back, like 4 games, and he's a 6'2 guard. The effort he played on a nightly basis, that's what you're going to need back. You lost Tyke Green, who's another role player. K-State could use some more role player dudes off the bench to come in. And I know you'll get some of that element with the freshmen. You'll have some step up from guys like Michaela Rich, guys like Dida Ames, RJ Jones, but there's still spots to fill. There's still work to be done. And I think that's what we need to focus on. There's still guys out there that are already on the block that are really good players looking for homes, but we have 6 days. And if you want to sit there and say, well, K-State missed out early in the transfer portal, I get what you're saying, but let's revisit this conversation next week. Let's see where we're at the end of the May 11th deadline. Let's see where everybody's at. Really, there's going to be so many big-name players that jump ship that are looking for new homes, and K-State has 3 available scholarships with one of the best coaching staffs in the nation. It's a match made in heaven. I mean, you hear everybody talk about Coach Tang, everybody talk about Coach Ream, the rest of the guys, all recruiting. It's hard not to like what K-State has going on. And I get that the immediate fan reaction, especially in the Bruce Weber era, is recruiting is not something that's good for Manhattan. Manhattan is not good at recruiting. It's a tough spot to recruit to. That is such BS, it's not even funny. K-State has the best fan base in the Big 12. If you went to K-State, you know what I'm talking about. You walk on campus and everybody's happy. There's colleges around the nation where, okay, the coaches want me here, fans, yeah, some of them want me here, I'll go there. K-State, it's like everybody from A to Z wants you there. Even as just a regular incoming freshman, not with any athletic background really, you still feel the happiness and the pull to Manhattan. You feel the beautiful aspect of Manhattan that is so hard to describe. I want to give a shout out to Tim Fitzgerald from GoPowerCat.com. He had a great tweet talking about what makes Manhattan special. He described it as K-Staters pull for each other. You know, you go anywhere. If you see a K-State, you see a Power Cat on somebody's chest, you're like, I got to talk to this person. We were in Mexico this past week, and there was a guy walking around with a K-State shirt on, and I immediately was like, 1, what are you doing in Mexico? That's crazy that we're both here. 2, that's awesome. Let's talk about K-State. Let's strike up a conversation. Let's get to meet each other. You care for each other, even if there's a generational gap, if there's time gaps, if there's different things, like the interaction is always pure, from K-Stater to K-Stater. And I know you can say that about certain colleges. If I'm at Alabama and I see a guy from Alabama, I can be like, hey, pal, I was on Alabama's campus in the 80s, whatever. K-State, you feel the love, and you never leave. The connection never leaves you. And with the recruiting stuff, it rings true. Guys want to be in Manhattan. We want you there. So I don't know which big names are going to enter. I don't know who's coming to Manhattan next, but there's going to be some good things in the works. And I guess the message for this video, if you want to take one away, is that please trust the coaching staff. These dudes know exactly what they're doing. They took a bunch of guys who the general consensus was they were going to be last in the Big 12. K-State fans might have disagreed, but it didn't look like we were a Big 12 championship-esque team on paper. And before the season's over, we went further than any Big 12 team. And I mean, Texas technically went to the same spot. But either way, K-State still massively overachieved everyone's expectations. Let's give Tang some chances. Let's wait and see this next week. I am so excited to meet the new dudes that join here. And even though it doesn't May 11th isn't the deadline to say, I'll be at this college at this time on this date. That's not the case in every situation. But at least we know the dudes entering the portal by May 11th, see who's going around, see what's happening, and then we'll know what the next step is for K-State. I plan to post a video here next week again talking about the situation, talking about the portal, and then really honing in on certain guys that are interested in K-State and vice versa. Thank you again for all the support on the channel. Thanks for watching today's video. If you're interested in more K-State talk, go ahead and consider subscribing. It helps me out immensely and takes a fraction of your time. With all that being said, thanks for listening, and go Cats.